Folks, welcome back to another episode of Mayhem in the Midsouth. Today's episode, Gunshots on Signal Mountain. Alright folks, we're going to be in southeast Tennessee, down around Chattanooga. The community is Signal Mountain. This case was back in 1988. It's July 9th, 1988. Got a couple of fellas from the Air Force, Kenneth Griffin and Earl Smock. Now, Mr. Griffith, he was up visiting his daddy-in-law, Richard Mason. Now, Mr. Mason's got a house there in Hamilton County. Now, the three of them, they decided they were going to go ride four-wheelers, ATVs, up to swimming hole known as Blue Hole. Now, that's a local swimming area there on Signal Mountain. Now, Mr. Mason, he's got a four-wheeler. Everybody's got to have a four-wheeler if you live out in the country. Now, Mr. Smock, he had brought his ATV with him. But now Mr. Griffith, he had to borrow one. So they took out that morning. But now it started getting dark and they hadn't come back. So they're getting a little concerned. Now the next morning, family, they call one of their neighbors, tell him what's going on. He says, well, let me get out there and I'll look, see what's going on. So he looked around, he didn't see anything, but now he did spot some ATV tracks in the dirt. That was on the trail over there near his house. Now those tracks, they went up by a campground, and they went up to what's known as Helican Road. Now Helican Road is really nothing more than a trail that people will walk or ride their ATVs on. Now it's that Helican Road that you take to go up to Blue Hole. So now he followed the tracks and they went all the way up along Helican Road and up near the swimming hole, and they went down to Vandergrift Road. Now after that he lost track of the trail because now that road is paved, so he couldn't do no more. Now a little later on, they find three ATVs and they're in an illegal dump site on Roberts Mill Road. Now two of them ATVs are covered in blood. Now one of the three fellas had been carrying a pistol. Now they found the pistol. It was still wrapped up in a towel under the seat of Mr. Griffith's ATV. Now July 11th, the Sheriff's Department gets out there and they get search teams and they start looking. And they're going along that Helican Road. And remember, that's just a path through the woods there. So they get them a command post set up. They got everybody out there walking around looking. Now one of the teams, they get up there on Helican Road, and there's an area up there to an area known as the Gate. And the reason they called it the Gate is because there used to be a gate there. Well, there's not a gate anymore, but they still call it the Gate just the same. Now that search team, because some of these people are locals, they're saying that the area looked manicured, looked like somebody had done some work there. Too clean looking. Said it looked like somebody used a branch from a pine tree or something to sweep the dirt road. It seemed like there was a couple of patches of grass that seemed to have been trampled down. Now one of the sheriff's deputies that's with that group, they found what looks like drag marks from the road to a tree. Now at that tree there's blood and they think brain matter along the base of the tree. Now they also found a knife in the grass, and the brother of Mr. Griffiths says that's going to belong to his brother. Now the Sheriff's Department, they got a cadaver dog out there. They found a large pool of blood and bone chips. They said it was consistent with human skull. Was also recovered from that area. Now some of the skull fragments had striations and they were consistent with shotgun pellets. And also they looked at the tree there, a couple of the trees, And looked like the bark had been hit by gunfire from a shotgun. They were thinking bird shot or buckshot or something, but there's no doubt it'd been shot up. Now, it took them 4 days, but they found the bodies of the 3 men about 12 miles away at another dump site. That was off of Big Fork Road. Now, that's in Marion County. That's just next door. Authorities said the men were stacked up like cordwood on the edge of a bluff. They were covered with brush and barbed wire, but now you could see the bodies from the road. Now, the Hamilton County medical examiner, he looks at the 3 bodies. He says Mr. Griffith died from a gunshot wound to the left side of his ear. Said that the bullets hit him just above the left ear and exited the right side. ME said that the trajectory of the bullets would be consistent with the shooter standing above the victim. Now, Mr. Griffith's body also had scrapes on the chest consistent with being dragged over a rough area like a dirt road. Now, Mr. Mason, he'd been shot in the chest at close range by buckshot. Now, the wound's angle on his body also indicated that the shooter would have been standing above Mr. Mason. And the ME theorized that Mr. Mason was possibly in a sitting position, which would, of course, lead authorities to believe he was still sitting on his ATV. Now, Mr. Smock, he was shot twice with birdshot, once at close range in the right shoulder and chest. ME again theorized that first shot probably knocked Mr. Smock to the ground. Said on that second shot, the shooter stood above him and shot him again at close range. Now, he was so close on the second shot that the wadding from the shotgun shell lodged in the lower left shoulder of Mr. Smock. Now, of course, you're talking about a shotgun, and you got birdshot and you got buckshot. So the ME says, you could have as many as 3 different guns involved in this. No way of knowing. So even if you get the gun, you're going to need those shells, because that firing pin indentation in the shotgun shells, I guess, would be the only way you could identify what kind of gun it was or which gun it was. But now, I'm not a ballistics man. So now the police get to looking, and they get to talking to people. And they got all kinds of witnesses talking about seeing a Jeep in the area. You also got witnesses talking about the fact that they heard gunshots in the evening hour. All of them seem to be between about 6 o'clock and 9 o'clock, all coming from the same general area. Most of the witnesses said that the shots came pretty fast. As few as 5, as many as 8 shots within 10 seconds. Now, you had another witness said they saw a Jeep on Sawyer Road, and it had an ATV in the back. A couple of more witnesses said they saw somebody in a Jeep around Sawyer Road near the area where the ATVs were recovered. So the police hadn't got any hard evidence, but they're getting warm. Right now, all they got's a Jeep. Now, within a day or two, there's a fella and he sees a woman washing what looks like blood out of the back of a Jeep at a local car wash. Now, he asked her if that was blood, and the woman said it was, said it had just taken a pig to the slaughterhouse. Now, this happened to be on a Sunday, and this fella, he was a local. He knew that the slaughterhouse was closed on Sunday. Now, he found it so suspicious that he wrote down that tag number. Now, later on, he saw that Jeep again, and the suspect in this case was driving it. Come to find out, the woman washing it out was his wife. Same tag number. Now, they end up, police do, zeroing in on our suspect because he's got land in that area where the victims were last seen and where everybody heard the gunshots. Now, that suspect got his Jeep with the tag number, blood being washed out. But now what actually busted the case open was our suspect was having an affair. And the woman he's having the affair with, somebody he'd known for a long time, she got some anonymous mail, and that anonymous mail indicated that man she was seeing, our suspect, was responsible for killing those 3 men on the ATVs. Now, come to find out, that anonymous mail that was sent to her came from the wife of the suspect, because she didn't want her husband running around with another woman. And the wife was trying to run her off. Now, this woman, she actually got with the police, and she ended up taping a conversation with the suspect and the wife. That must have been an interesting conversation, the 3 of them sitting down at this woman's house. So they end up charging him after that, because there was just enough said by the wife during this tape conversation that they figured they'd go on and charge him. So they got a change of venue. Part of the trial now, they brought in 18 witnesses that testified that they had been confronted by the suspect when they were on his property, and that each time he'd had that shotgun. Some of these witnesses claimed that he'd actually pointed the shotgun at them and put his finger on the trigger, told them to leave. Now, when it's all said and done, the jury comes back and they find the suspect guilty. 3 counts of first-degree murder. That was in 1998. Now, the Criminal Court of Appeals, they ended up reviewing the case, and they sent it back down, told them to retry the case. Said that those tape recordings should not have been allowed in court. So they did the trial again. The jury found the suspect guilty again. Now, one thing of interest I saw in some of the resource material was how in the world the suspect and his wife could have loaded those ATVs up in his Jeep and taken them to the dump site. And of course that would have required 3 trips, because I don't think you could have got more than one up in that Jeep. But the question was, how to get them loaded up. Now, I figured he had to have ramps and pushed them up there, or drove it up there into the back. I already found him a little high point there in the land and backed his Jeep up and pushed them off from there into the back. Other than that, I don't know how he'd done. He sure couldn't have picked them up by himself, and his wife couldn't have helped him. So it was a circumstantial evidence the whole way through, but I think they got the right fella. We're not going to know now, because the suspect, he died in prison a few years back. Sure was a senseless killing, though. There wasn't no need in doing that.